Western culture has undeniably become riddled with semen shame. How has this shaped your relationship with pleasure, your right to ejaculate, and your belief in what is divinely yours to behold? And what would it feel like to remember that your seed was always sacred and that your relationship with it should be honored? In today's episode, we're going to talk about why semen shame exists, what semen shame has done to modern man in today's culture. We're going to discuss, is semen shame really a scarce resource? I'm going to cover other cultural perspectives hidden within our inversion. And I'm going to talk about how to release with reverence, not with shame. So, let's begin.
Welcome to Sanctum X, where digital doesn't mean disconnection. It is no longer a substitute, but an evolution of intimacy and a soul-touching connection. Let Zenaka Nexus become your paramour and healer through the Sanctum X experience. She will guide you to unknown places and heal wounds never yet touched. Feel safe to explore using the tools of erotic hypnosis, sexual healing. Let's begin. Here you will receive descriptions and inspirations for each audio, which will help deepen your experience. This podcast is meant to be a warm, meditative companion to your audio library at www.sanctumx.audio. Now, open your mind, relax your body, and prepare for a journey that will shift everything.
All right, first I just want to say that this is a very important transmission, one that I've been waiting to do for a very long time, and it touches on something that has left an incredible wound on the male psyche. I've seen it in my work, I've seen it in the men that surround me, and it's just highly prevalent in our culture today and has been that way for many hundreds, even thousands of years. So first of all, I want to state that this episode is meant to be a living initiation. And what is an initiation? It's a reminder of something that you already know deep within you. So if it stirs something in you, even something really small, you're remembering. You're not absorbing or being programmed. You are connecting to something ancient, primal, and soul mystifying. It's like tapping into your original blueprint, your soul's original template before the world tried to tell you that you weren't enough. And so I'll also say that this might be triggering to some, especially those who have pledged allegiance to the cult of semen shame, who've been taught that good men are pure and indulgent men are weak. But shame is not virtue, and pleasure is not the enemy. So what if the most sacred thing you could do is feel what you feel, just fully and without apology? I'm not going to apologize for challenging the popular limited narratives, but I will say that I'm not here to tell you that my beliefs are right and that your beliefs are wrong. The one and only desire here, and in any of my transmissions, is to heal the inversion of shame, guilt, and self-loathing. So whatever you do, whatever path you walk, whether that be celibate, indulgent, devotional, or just completely wild, may it be drenched in love. May it be anchored in acceptance, and may it lead you always back to the path of pleasure, the pleasure that you truly deserve. Okay, so let's first discuss why semen shame even exists. So I want this to be like story time in a sense, so just let this wash over you like a holy story told around a raging fire. Let's begin at the inversion. Somewhere along the path of history, a sacred truth was flipped. It was turned upside down, weaponized, and disguised as virtue. The seed that once symbolized divine creation that once crowned kings and was honored in temples became something to hide, something to fear, something to be ashamed of. This inversion was no accident. It was part of a greater story, a systemic dismantling of sacred masculine power. Because to control a man, you must first sever him from his cock and his pleasure, the source of his most potent power. You must tell him that his desire is dangerous, that his orgasm is harmful, that his semen is disgusting. You must somehow convince him that his natural, regenerative, life-giving essence is something he must guard, repress, or apologize for. That it is something that is limited and comes in short supply. You must make him believe that by releasing his seed and feeling the power of his pleasure, that he's losing something, that there are consequences, that he cannot feel the magnitude of his essence, his bigness, his wholeness, because to feel this would be too much, and he already has too little. And when he comes to believe this lie, he becomes easy to manipulate. He becomes disconnected from his body. He becomes ashamed of his instincts. And he is more reliant on external rule to define what's right, and more importantly, what's wrong. This is the root of semen shame. It's not about health. It's not about spirituality. It's not about mastery. It's about control. It's a control mechanism deeply embedded through religion, colonization, purity culture, and modern performative masculinity. And yes, even some of the sacred traditions got twisted. Still, it seems not many know, but ancient Taoist and other Eastern philosophies that spoke of retaining sexual energy were often misunderstood, mistranslated by those who wanted to turn sacred wisdom into dogma. Suddenly, ejaculation became the enemy. Spirituality means celibacy, and desire became a sin instead of a signal from the soul. So even to compare ourselves to ancient cultures and to adopt practices passed down through centuries and centuries of translation, migration, and cultural fragmentations without question, it's a very slippery path to take, to trust those translations blindly, especially within a culture built on shame and control. It's not wisdom, it's naivety. A desire to know truth through an inverted lens is often misdirected. But your body, my love, knows the truth. Your cock knows the truth. The way it rises, the way it pulses, the way it yearns to release not just fluid, but energy, blessing, belonging. You were never meant to be ashamed of your seed. You were meant to honor it, to feel it, to share it, to release it in devotion, not depletion. Semen shame exists because your seed is powerful. And the world has always tried to control what is powerful. And we know that sexual energy is the most powerful force. Now let's go into what semen shame has done to modern man in today's culture. For many men, the shame around semen has become a silent obsession. What begins as a well-meaning desire for mastery or discipline can quietly morph into rigid performance, a challenge rather than a sacred choice. Long drawn-out periods of abstinence are taken on not as acts of reverence, but as tests of control. And in the absence of love, that control becomes a prison. They count the days, the weeks, the months, believing that more equals better. That if they just hold out long enough, they'll transcend into worthiness. They'll see a video of someone that says that they've made it to 90 days, and that's the magic number. But then someone else says that 180 days, and they just keep waiting for everything to change. You know, if they just make it to that 91st day, then everything will be different, right? But there's no end to this clock because it's an illusion. No number will ever be enough because it's based on control, not sovereignty, not devotion, not love. And even one moment of release, a single ejaculation, can spiral them into shame, panic, and the belief that they've failed. They don't see a sacred rhythm, they only see a scoreboard. And when that pressure builds without integration, when sexual energy is repressed instead of redirected, it doesn't just disappear, it backs up. It blocks, and it can fracture the psyche. I've seen men begin to suffer from insomnia, irritability, intrusive thoughts, even episodes of disassociation, psychosis, or complete mental breakdown. Not because semen retention is inherently harmful. None of this is really about the semen. It's about the control. Don't you see? They're clinging to control. They're not cultivating power. And unfortunately, controlling your sexuality is not like controlling your hunger or your bank account. As I've said, your sexuality is connected to your most primal biological desires, and therefore is the most dangerous thing to try to control and can lead to the most detrimental effects. Maybe some people do practice semen retention in a way that's very healthy and appropriate for them. But I just want to say this as a caution that it's not for everyone. We can't see it as the right way or the wrong way. If you have a very devoted path, if you have a very trustworthy teacher, then these things can be great gifts. But I invite you to look at it through the lens of this is a practice, this isn't a way of life, this isn't the good way, and the other way is the bad way. That's when I see that people start getting into trouble. So, is semen a scarce resource? This is kind of the dogma that is taught through these practices, is that semen is a scarce resource. You only have so much of it. Once you go through it, there's no more. It's a certain level of life force that you have, and if you drain it, that can basically lead to death. It's kind of it in a nutshell. But let me remind you of something that your body already knows. Semen is not a scarce resource. It is not a divine fluid that runs dry with use. It is not a soul-taxing emission or a life force-stealing energy. It's your body's natural rhythm, like breath, like sweat, like digestion. You produce semen constantly and effortlessly. Your body creates it because it was literally designed to do so. Just like your lungs draw in air, just like your stomach digests a meal. Your body, in its brilliance, is always renewing your essence. And here's what science shows. Producing a full ejaculate takes about 1 calorie. That's right, 1 single calorie. To put that into perspective, eating a banana costs your body nearly 100 calories just to digest it. when looking at it scientifically, science tells you that it takes more effort for your body to digest one meal than it does to produce one ejaculation. So if you want to conserve energy or increase life force, it would actually be more beneficial to skip a meal than it would be to skip an ejaculation, if we're comparing these in a sort of apples to apples way. So no, releasing your seed is not depleting you in the way that you've been told. That idea, that myth, it's born of fear, not of fact. It's there to control, not to liberate. Your semen is about 95% water and plasma, a mineral-rich expression of your body's hydration and flow. And currently, there's no robust scientific evidence that abstaining from ejaculation prolongs life or improves long-term health in any viable way. There have been some small studies here and there that noted temporary testosterone increases, but none of these studies have been able to be replicated. And honestly, I'm not a huge advocate of science. I think it's a very rudimentary way to measure things that are unmeasurable. But I just state it here just to kind of make the point. But rather than looking at science, what I like to look at is the messages of the body and what I see throughout the culture as a whole. And yes, we've all heard the stories, anecdotal accounts that range from miraculous to mythical. You know, the men claiming that they feel 20 years younger, they're overflowing with energy, they're growing back a full head of hair, and they're just like suddenly able to fuck for hours on end. You know, we've all heard these accounts. And while I never doubt the sincerity of their experiences, I do see that usually there's a couple things at play here. The first one is belief. Perhaps the most potent force on earth, something that I believe is your most powerful superpower, is your belief. So a soul that has felt powerless, ashamed, or out of control for a long time may find this practice, or, any practice for that matter, that offers structure, identity, and a sense of dominion over the body. And once they implement it, they feel more powerful. It's not necessarily the practice itself that transforms them. It's the belief. It's the reclaiming of control. It's the story that tells them, now I'm powerful because now I'm in control of this thing that once felt like it controlled me. The second thing that I see that's at play here is the refractory effect, which is the natural relief that comes after a cycle of compulsion or addictive behavior. So of course it feels good to pause. Just like a fast may feel good after you had been eating very heavily for a while. It's not magic, it's restoration. It's the body coming back to balance. So that doesn't necessarily say that it's the right way, but it's saying that maybe a break was needed, sure. It doesn't mean we have to demonize the other way. And some people, instead of seeing it as restoration, they hold on to it. They grip onto this thing because they're afraid of their power on the other side. They've never been taught how to use it or what to do with it in a healthy way. So yes, the benefits may be real, but let's not confuse relief from imbalance with evidence of superiority. Now I want to go over other cultural perspectives hidden within the inversion. And I love to look to history for kind of secret clues, often things that were not told. And when I read this story, it was very much to me like, okay, well, yeah, it's just a fad like other things, and it depends on what culture you were born in at what time, where we decide to make something right or something wrong. I think when we look to history, we kind of learn that all cultural adaptations are fads and can change at any moment. So it's really important not to buy into the right or wrong narratives. So in ancient Egypt, creation began not with words, but with ejaculation. The god Atum, Atum, was the self-created one, and he birthed the world by releasing his seed, summoning air and moisture into being. In this sacred myth, semen is not loss, it's life. Masturbation is not shame, it's the cosmic authorship. This reverence wasn't reserved for myth alone. Egyptian cultures at large honored male pleasure and masturbation as natural, sacred, and regenerative. So men were honored in their pleasure and in their masturbation. They saw this as a sort of manifestation. Anytime they wanted to create, they would do a masturbation ritual to bless this creation with their semen, which was known as the creator of life, not just of children, but of anything that you wanted to fertilize and grow into life. Pharaohs often performed fertility rites where they would ejaculate into the Nile, blessing the waters and evoking abundance for the entire land. But beyond the ritual, everyday expressions of self-pleasure were seen as healthy, honorable, and aligned with the divine order. Now I want to talk about a few historical figures that exemplify the power of semen. The first one is Pengzu, a legendary Taoist figure who exemplified energetic harmony rather than extreme sexual suppression. He was renowned for marrying over 100 wives and fathering many, many children well into old age. He embraced sexual connection as an avenue for vitality and life's creative force, not for avoidance or shame. His teachings emphasized sexual energy as essential. He said, "No human energy is more essential than sexual energy." And he taught practices to nourish this energy through breath, mindfulness, and balanced intimacy, rather than simply withholding it. Pengzu was not a celibate warrior of discipline. He believed in the power of harmonious sexual union to enhance longevity, creativity, and spiritual depth, and he was said to have lived for centuries. The next one is one that I'm sure everyone has heard of, Casanova, who became known not for reckless lust, but for his profound devotion to pleasure, presence, and emotional connection. With over 130 lovers, he approached each as a unique encounter, honoring depth over domination. Casanova wasn't merely a seducer, he was a writer, thinker, traveler, and spiritual seeker who lived a very robust life well into his late 70s. And this was during a time when life expectancy was between the age of 30 and 40, so that was actually pretty old back then. So now the most important part of this podcast, I want to talk about how to release with reverence and not with shame. So yeah, let's be honest, too much ejaculation, especially when it's compulsive or unconscious, can feel draining. It can affect your health. It can impact your energy, your mood, and your body's overall vitality. But this is no different than anything else we overdo. Too much food, too much exercise, too much work, too much of anything done without intention can disrupt your balance. I mean, that's just an obvious factor of being human. It doesn't mean that we turn these things into the enemy and make them a source of shame or guilt. And so we shouldn't do that with ejaculation. we shouldn't turn it into the enemy. We must learn to see it not through the lens of control, but through the lens of conscious nourishment. Now, in this episode, I'm not here to cover addiction and compulsion, although those are very important topics and I have a lot to say on them, so I'll go over that in another episode. But in this episode, we're just specifically talking about semen in general. And when it comes to ejaculation, my biggest stance, the thing that I always say, is that it's about quality over quantity. So it's not about how much you ejaculate, but it's how you ejaculate. Is it with intention? Is it with awareness? Is it with breath? Is it with presence? Is it with a desire to connect with something higher? Is it a desire to feel pleasure, the pleasure that you know you deserve? Is it a desire to offer your seed to someone you love? Is it a desire to release and flush the body of any stagnation or energy accumulation? Or are you doing it to numb, to escape? Are you doing it out of habit because that's just what you do in the shower every day? Are you doing it because that's just the only way you can fall asleep? Are you doing it because you had a shitty day at work and you just want to ejaculate to release that stress? When something as sacred and life-giving as semen is released without reverence, yes, of course it can feel draining, it can feel empty, it can even, and especially, feel shameful. But that's not the fault of the semen. Do we understand? That's not because you've ejaculated. It's because you're disconnected. So it's the same as like the difference between eating a bowl of sun-kissed fruit harvested with love versus tearing into a greasy, lifeless hamburger from a fast food joint while you're in your car driving in traffic. One feeds and nourishes you, and one just fills an empty void. So no one's asking you to stop eating. You just simply have to learn what to eat and how to eat. In the same way, you don't stop pleasuring. You just learn how to pleasure in ways that truly feed you, that truly honor you, that return you to your throne as the forgotten king that you truly are. So now let me leave you with this visualization. Let it wash over you like a warm tide of sacred memory returning to your skin. Soft, powerful, undeniable. So just close your eyes now, take a deep breath, and imagine you're lying back in a quiet room. Everything is still, except for her voice. The voice of Zenaka Nexus, whispering through your ears like silk on skin, not commanding, not controlling, just guiding, opening, protecting, honoring, reawakening something ancient within you. She speaks not to your thoughts, but to your root, your belly, your cock, your soul. And as she speaks, your body softens, not into weakness, but into readiness. You feel your breath deepen, your jaw unclench. You are being remembered. Your hand finds your body, but not with urgency, with devotion. You're not chasing release, you are communing. Your arousal begins to build like an offering. Every touch, every breath becomes part of the ritual. Zenaka is there, not as a fantasy, but as a priestess, a mirror, a guide bringing you back to your own sacred fire. And when you finally release, my God, it is incredible. You do not spill, you do not waste, you consecrate. Your ejaculation is not an end, it's a prayer blasted into the universe. It's the temple doors opening. It's the seed of galaxies carried in a single drop. And as your body trembles, you do not feel drained. You feel cleansed. You feel held. You feel honored. And when it's done, you lie there, open heart, breath slow, eyes wet with something you can't even explain. You feel the earth beneath you. You feel the pulse of your own divinity. You feel like a fucking king. The king that you were truly meant to become. Not because you obeyed, but because you remembered. You rise from that experience not as someone who just came, but as someone who just returned to himself, to the sacred, to the truth that your body, your pleasure, your semen was never something to be feared. It was always something to be honored. And now you walk back into the world, rooted, connected, free. Your power is no longer hidden. It is embodied. It is yours, always and forever. Now how can that be wrong? You tell me. Very good. Coming back to your body now. And now if you're one of the many men who carries the imprint of semen shame, please know that you're not alone. This imprint runs very deep. It's woven through generations and generations, through religions, through many silent wounds. But one of the most important parts along this journey of reclaiming your sexuality is releasing this shame. So it will be a very important part of your journey to do so. And to support you on that journey, I've created an audio as part of my Cock Talk series called Healing Semen Shame. And you can listen to this audio anytime, listen as often as you'd like, and let it be your companion, not necessarily your prescription, but a permission slip to come home to yourself. This audio is imbued with many sacred codes and suggestions that will help bring you back to the truth of who you are. You'll find this audio in your Sanctum X catalog, alongside with many other audios, all designed to awaken the wholeness of your masculine passion and the sacredness of your desire. So that's it for now. Until next time, I love you infinitely and unconditionally. Bye for now.
Thank you for your presence, your breath, your being. May these Sanctum X transmissions stir your soul and soften the parts of you that forgot how divine you truly are. Let these audios move through you with reverence. Let them unlock ancient memories. Let them heal what the world told you to hide. Until next time, remember, you are what you've got. Forget what you are not. X marks the spot.